Have you ever thought about what it would be like to take the controls of an aircraft and fly like a bird? When I was young, I always loved airplanes and flying, often dreaming of what it would be like. However, like most of us, life seems to get in the way of our passions if we let it. It wasn't until I was older, in my 30s, that I finally decided to learn how to fly. I began my flight training at a flight school in Edmonton, where I learned the basics of flight, weather, flight planning, ground operations, communications, and everything else that I needed to know in order to fly a plane safely. When it came to the flying, I was fortunate. My flight instructor and I were both physically about the same size, so our combined weights were too much for the small two-seater training aircraft they had, so I got to learn on a larger, more powerful aircraft. I progressed through my flight training rapidly and was ready for my first solo flight with a minimum number of hours. One day, without any advance notice, we landed at Villeneuve Airport, where my instructor got out and told me to complete one circuit, land, and then pick him up. Apparently, my passion for flying got the best of me, and after I completed the circuit and landed, I thought, why not power up and go around again? Which is exactly what I did. So I did two circuits. And he was not impressed about that when I landed to pick him up, because at that time, all I had is a student pilot license. I wasn't legally authorized to fly two circuits. As the years went on, I was fortunate to find and buy an airplane, one that was bigger and faster than what I had trained on. On days when I wanted to get out and relax, I'd go out to the airport, hop in the plane, and I'd fly around by myself for an hour or two. That was great. My wife and I took many trips in our plane, from flying to grass airstrips next to lakes so we could go fishing, to visiting family in other provinces. We had many, many adventures. One thing I enjoyed was aerobatic flight. I used to say, if you're not upside down, spinning and falling out of the sky, you're not having fun. I remember a time when I had the opportunity to fly an open cockpit biplane in Ottawa. We went out, we were doing aerobatics over the Prime Minister's house. The entire time we were doing that, I kept thinking to myself, if that was the White House down there, they would have shot us down too. On another trip, I gave my wife the scare of her life. We were in Southern California and stopped at an airport where I rented an aerobatic glider and went out with an instructor. We soared for a long time, enjoying thermals that would keep you up in the air all day long if you wanted to stay there. As we were flying, we did a lot of aerobatics, doing barrel rolls and loops and tail slides and all kinds of things with the glider. And that's when we spotted a group of hikers hiking up the ridge of a mountain. And they were getting close to the top, and we thought, that'd be pretty cool to go buzz them. So I put the plane into a nosedive, and we ended up heading straight down towards the mountain and went over top of the hikers, probably about 5 or 6 feet over their heads. And of course, they can't hear you. You're a glider. So, so they kind of got the scare of their lives. But the other thing was, my wife was watching. All she saw was the airplane doing a nosedive towards the mountain, and all of a sudden we disappeared on the other side of the mountain below the trees. She thought we'd crashed and killed ourselves. That was a few minutes of panic for her, but then we popped up over the mountain, soaring, came back to the airport, landed, and she could breathe again, but I heard about that for a long time. There were many other experiences that happened while flying. We were once added to the landing pattern at Winnipeg International on a very busy day, where they squeezed our little plane in between an Air Force C-130 and an Air Canada Dash 8 that were landing. The Air Canada Dash 8 that was coming in behind us, his landing speed is higher than the top speed of my aircraft when we were cruising. So air traffic control asked me, just fly down the runway about a third of the way, touchdown, and then turn right away onto an intersecting runway. I thought, okay, I didn't see a problem with that. Well, the Air Canada pilot was getting closer and closer to my tail. He got on the radio and in a real panicky voice, he was, I don't think this is going to work. Well, I did prove him wrong. I managed to fly, about 3 feet off the runway, went down, almost got to the intersecting runway, touchdown, and with the true spirit of a race car driver, I cranked her hard right, got onto that runway. That Dash 8, I saw him over my shoulder, went by not 2 seconds after we were off the runway. Immediately after that, the captain of the Dash 8 and air traffic control got on the radio thanking me for doing such a fantastic job of clearing the runway. I answered them with a voice that made it sound like I had done that about 100 times. But in reality, I'm sure there was sweat pouring down my forehead. That was really close. I was also fortunate to meet the regimental sergeant major of the Cold Lake Air Base, who took my wife and I on a tour of the base, including some of the top secret areas that I don't think we were actually supposed to see. He didn't really care, he was retiring. He arranged for me to have the opportunity to learn to fly the CF-18 Hornet while at the base. I got several hours in the simulator flying and dogfighting against the Air Force flight instructors. I managed to shoot 2 of them down, telling them I learned how to do that from computer games. They were looking at me somewhat doubtful, and when they actually learned that I was a pilot, they weren't so kind in the air after that. They tried to kill me as fast as they possibly could. During one dogfight, I got a little cocky, and I thought I'd fly up really close to the behind one of the instructors, and I got probably within about 200 feet of the tail of his aircraft. I thought, well, I've been using missiles to shoot them down. Now I'm going to try guns. Well, if any of you have ever seen the original movie Top Gun, where an instructor is on Maverick's tail and he says to Goose, I'm going to hit the air brakes and he'll fly right past us. That is exactly what this pilot did. He hit the air brakes and I'm just about to squeeze the trigger and all I did was go, oh crap. He was behind me in a split second. Well, I put that aircraft through its paces like you would not believe, trying to get away from this guy. And I lost sight of him for a split second. And not ever having done this before, I leveled off to look around for him real quick, and boom, I was dead. Took about a second and a half. Cockiness was gone. I just want to finish by saying if you have a passion in life and work toward achieving it, you will succeed. The best advice I can tell you is stay the course, work hard, and don't let failure or obstacles here and there discourage you from reaching your goal.